It was cool. I mean, I think we wanted to set up a major league environment in the way of like what you've been exposed to in the major leagues, what we've seen as coaches and trainers with guys in the league, is have this resources where you have training, you have coaching, you have PT, you have rehab, massage, you have all these services to take care of that athlete, which is big. But obviously, guys got to the big leagues for a reason.
Yes.
So then the other part of this is how do we start with someone who's younger, because a lot of our population is in the high school age and moving on up. And I think what's a couple of things that are special is we really focus, and you guys especially run with this your Optimum Athletes group is to take people and really work on their body and teach them how to use your own body first, how to generate more power, more efficiency, and then that's going to transfer to swinging the bat harder, throwing the ball harder. And I think this is so cool watching the games this last bit on TV. I mean, they have stats, not being the biggest baseball fan in the world sitting here, but watching some games of recent, and you see of course we're talking about exit velocities and pitch velocities, and I saw a stat today on the scoreboard out there and in the stadium on drop, right? Which I'm sure they're probably grabbing from a rap soda or something like that.
Yeah.
But what's cool is those numbers are getting sexy to the athlete and to the fan.
Yeah.
But what I see, and I think that we all see, is what does it take to get that exit velocity up?
Yep.
And that's where it comes down to like how we train that person's body and develop that strength base, develop that rotational power base, and make sure that the pieces are there so the kinetic chain can do its job.
100%.
And then you get those sexy numbers. And I think that's what's missed and what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny all the time. I get it all the time. I see these young kids, and I kind of talked with Evan today, and I'm sure this will come up down the road a little bit, but we put the cart before the horse a lot of times, and it's like if you don't put, driveline baseball uses this analogy all the time. It's like you got to build the engine. If you got a car with no engine, and you just look at these guys in the major leagues, they're specimens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got guys like Michael Lorenzen and Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge.
Right, the freaks.
These guys could.
You mean you can't make people as big as Aaron?
I mean, no, you can't. But I mean,
maybe not naturally.
No, not
That doesn't
make it,
happen?
but like, there's not. These guys are specimens, Right. So it's almost like, hey, we got to do this first, And I think that's where my career took off too. It was like, well, once I started actually like picking up big weights like a professional athlete does, and kind of looking like a little bit more like a professional athlete, I started performing more like a professional athlete. And I say it all the time, like all these guys that I played with in the major leagues, they absolutely were animals in the weight room. Every single one of them. I mean, I shouldn't say every single one of them, but
there's outliers, I'm sure.
Exactly. There's those guys that just, it came easy for them, but that's the 1%er. So it's like, if they don't do this, if we don't, address these strength issues or address these power output issues or motor control issues or whatever we're coming up with, you're never going to make it. You know? So it's cool that we can dive in and do that now, especially with the high school population. I didn't get that in high school.
Yeah.
And I almost didn't really get it in pro ball, towards the end of my career, because a lot of this stuff wasn't on the forefront, and it was kind of frowned upon.
Yeah, to say that at the major league level that the guys were animals in the weight room, that's not a statement I would expect from MLB, especially like maybe before 2010 or 2005, right? I mean, lifting for baseball has been debatable as far as is a healthy option or not.
I mean, it's been like, oh, it'll ruin your mobility. Oh, and it's like,
pretty mainstream now, though.
It is
pretty
now.
well accepted that that's what it takes.
The baseball strength and conditioning world is saying, oh, you want to do, you want better mobility? Get to in range in your squat. Deadlift, and it's like that was never said before. It was you do this stuff, you're gonna get tight, and you're gonna get stiff, and you can't throw, and you can't.
But you don't get a neck like Mike Trout's without lifting some weight.
Yeah, or a body like Michael Lorenzen, who's like putting chains around his neck and doing like pull-ups, and it's like, whoa, that guy's a specimen. I tell guys, I played with Aroldis Chapman. It's like he looked like Terrell Owens with his shirt off. He was huge. There's a reason why he throws pitches 100 miles an hour. He looks like he would throw pitches 100 miles an hour.
Absolutely.
A lot of that was not mainstream, and it's like I was behind the 8 ball when I got to pro ball, behind the 1%ers. I had to build this. Now these kids are getting it at a young age in college, in high school, because of shops like us and people like you guys that can tell them and put them in the right place, in the right program. They're getting a head start. I wish I had this when I was, it's not that, it's new. It's not something that people have been doing for a long time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think from what we put together as a group has really been this idea of, when an athlete comes in, let's start with assessment.
Yep.
And let's take a look and see what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and then let's build a program that's right for you. And you spoke to the concept that it's a little more individual guided, where they get a program that's based on them, and they're not necessarily coached in a team as a group, although they might show up all at the same time.
Right.
They have the independence to go be accountable to their responsibilities, and
Yes.
and I think that speaks to everything we've said so far. And then some guys are going to do things differently than others because their bodies are different and their needs are different. They might both pitch. They might be on the same team. They might both be starters. But one guy's got a mobility problem and one guy's got a little bit of stability or a strength deficit that we want to emphasize. And the idea here is we see performance enhancement really go through the roof when you start to go by assessment first. See what they're limited in, and then go. If they're strong, they're already strong. Like there's no reason. There's always reason to gain strength, but but it may not be our main focus.
Right.
Like, let's work on let's work on what they're worst at, and that's where you're going to see this huge takeoff in performance. And then, of course, the idea would be less injuries as well. Usually if we use that kinetic chain effectively, then the injury rates are down as well.
Yep.
So.
When everything's more efficient, everything works better. So
100%.
less stress, everything like that.
Yeah, and that's what leads to those cool numbers out there. The, throwing 101 or throw, and having that drop on the ball and the spin rates are up. Is that you've got control of your body first.
Yes. Yep.
And then now you control the implement.
And on that note, it's probably not really a coincidence that there's more people throwing 100 as the thought on all of this stuff has changed, right? We've gotten more data-driven, we've gotten more numbers, and I remember back in the 90s, people in 1995, or back in the mid-90s, somebody threw 95, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Somebody throwing 95
Right.
is a big
Yeah,
deal. Now,
right.
if you throw 95, that's not enough to get drafted. Like, you gotta have more than that.
Yeah. I think, too, is like it just being more accepted to get guys like that come from your guys' background involved in the process. When I have a pitching coach who's a pitching coach, that's his job, it's literally on his job title, telling me what I should do in the weight room, there should be a red flag there. You know what I mean? And that's why I don't just rely on my knowledge to tell guys what they should do in the weight room. That's why I got people like you guys and other resources. And I think that should be a red flag. And I think that's one of the big reasons is that it's just evolving. We're allowing professionals in that area to get involved in the development process.